description will be, the type thing of what everyone said, but
okay, got it.
it won't have the visual. So now it'll have the visual. Okay. So let me share my screen again. So this first meeting is going to be a bit of I'm going to kind of machine gun through just a bunch of stuff I've discovered over the past few months. Like I said, I've been doing this for 2 months or so. Like, I don't have that much of a head start on anyone in the room. But I found a lot of things that have helped me wrap my head around what's going on with this stuff. So I'm just going to kind of jump through. I'm going to go through this as quickly as possible. How I kind of see these meetings going in the future is I want to have kind of a tools section of the meeting that, like, here's a tool. So, like, maybe do a deep dive on Midjourney. You're a Midjourney geek. Okay, great. And I forget who was it that just said they're really into Stable Diffusion. Alexia. So really dive into the tools. I think will be part of it. I think talking about, like, just what's going on in the news. Like, what have we heard? What's happened in the past 2 weeks? Like, honest to God, 2 weeks, the amount of news that's happened in the past 2 weeks is just staggering in this space. So I think doing that's important. And then I want there to be a section on someone showing off the work that they've done, right? So show us your 800 images you've created, or Alan, you go off from here and you say, okay, I'm going to go play with this tool. Come back and show us something. So I kind of want these meetings to be a balance of, sort of tools and geeking out, but also here's cool work. Here's how I'm expressing myself with these tools. And then I want there to be a good long amount of the time. I'm sort of anticipating in the future, the first hour will be kind of show and tell. And the second hour we'll be talking and exploring and Q&A and things like that. So that's kind of my hope. Today is, I hope to get to sort of a conversation at the end, but I do want to sort of level set and sort of walk through a bunch of stuff that I've learned and show some things. So with that, let me dive in. So some of the news just that I thought was worth pointing out, Stable Diffusion 2.0 launched. It was 1.0 was in August. 1.4 was in October, 1.5 was in November, 2.0 was end of November, beginning of December. This stuff's moving really fast. One of the things that happened with Stable Diffusion 2.0 is by default, they removed not safe for work images, famous artists and famous people out of the model, which totally freaked out the community because the quality of the work got worse. But it was really just a setting. They defaulted it to off, so you could turn it back on. But what that says to me, I mean, Stability is a for-profit company. They're open sourcing all of this technology, but they're a for-profit company. So you can already see them starting to struggle with the copyright and trademark issues. So I thought that's pretty interesting. So I think we're going to just see an absolute circus of lawsuits and things like that. And the genie is absolutely out of the bottle. I think there's no way you stop it, but I think we're going to see lots of that. Lensa, as we're all talking about, took the Dream Booth, the ability to upload pictures of yourself and turn those into images. They made $500,000 the first day they released that feature in the app. And if you're on Facebook, you're seeing all of your friends putting up all of their AI images from Lensa. So yeah,
that tool, right? It's like $9.99, $14.99. The price point on it it's pretty high, right?
Oh, it's really high. And
as far as I know, if anyone else has seen any other like viral trend that at this price point that many people have bought that quickly, I was very surprised by that. I expected, when I saw so many people posting it, for it to be a free tool based on just the number of people doing it.
No,
and then once I realized that they had all paid, it's either $9.99 or $14.99.
Yeah, well, there's different levels. You can do 50 images, 100 or whatever, and you have no creative control. It's like upload your pictures, and they'll send you back 50 images for $4, 100 images for $9, and
okay,
and then they're picking the thing. So they're just sort of generating it for you. So anyway, but like that sort of came on the scene like that. Just all of a sudden, everyone's putting up these images. And then ChatGPT launched, which is, the GPT-3 kind of spin-off that's in this chatbot format. They got to 1 million users in less than a week. Like the founder of OpenAI was like, I don't know what's happening. And like everyone's talking about ChatGPT. So I'll share that. So again, things are moving really fast. Future meetings, we'll sort of expand that and sort of go around anything anyone's heard. Before I dive into the stuff I'm going to show, there are two metaphors that I'd like to share that have, one was given to me and then one I had this week. So the one that was given to me was, I forget where I heard it, and I was talking to John Knack, who's on the call, about this, and it might have even been a YouTube video or something like that, but the guy was talking about to do this AI stuff, if you, the metaphor was, you don't need to know how to engineer and build a car to know how to drive. And that's kind of where we are with these AI tools, that you can have a computer science background, but you don't need one now, right? And like every time one of these new tools is released, there's these communities of developers that are putting them into, you can just click once to install this thing. Like, so even tools that you have to, know code to be able to install, within a day or two, there's a push the button to install it kind of thing. And they're getting wrapped into apps. So we're now having to basically understand what the concept of driving is and what the concept of a car is. And we're kind of all in.
I was going to
Sorry,
say
yeah.
That's really the big difference, though, in this analogy between AI and a car has a very clearly defined function that everybody understands, and so all you need to know is how it's going to get you that function, how it's going to deliver that capability to you. Nobody has any idea what the intended purpose of AI is, and so you do kind of need to understand what it's doing under the hood somewhat to have any idea of what it might be able to do, what its limitations are, and that sort of thing.
Yep. No, absolutely. And that's great segue to my second metaphor that this hit me 2 days ago. In the late 1800s, we go from horses and carriages to the invention of the internal combustion engine and the horseless carriage. So we go from, horse and buggy, horseless carriage. I feel like the leap with AI is more like, we've learned how to walk, and someone hands us the keys to an F1 race car. Like, yes, it's a car. We don't know what cars are. It goes 200 miles an hour from, you're going 180 miles an hour going into turn one. I don't even know what turn one is. Like, I don't know what racetracks are. So like, these tools are like as powerful as an F1 car. And like, we're literally like, it rolls? Yeah, it rolls. It rolls really fast, and you have to learn this computer. And you've got the steering wheel. The steering wheel itself costs $100,000, and it's a computer in and of itself, just to change the settings on how the motor works and the suspension. And what's a suspension? Like, so we're that early, and these tools are that powerful, right? And so I don't know. It's mind blowing. Okay. Especially for people. Yes. Question. Someone has a question. I think that's what that means.
Yeah, I just want to point out. I just like to point out too that we, using your car analogy, that some services are out there that go straight to the self-driving car where you don't even need to install the software or the thing on your computer locally. You can just have it all centralized in the cloud, which is very nice.
Yep. Yeah, exactly. And I think what that means, that the democratization of creative expression, and not just creative expression, like I got a pen and a pencil and a piece of paper, but like I can do something that is like a thing I saw in a museum and I know nothing about this. Like, what does that mean when everyone has access to tools that powerful? I don't know. None of us know,
Didn't we used to call that plagiarism?
No. So that's the first thing I want to start with. This is not a perfect example, but I think it's quite clear. So one of the things that's hit me as I've gotten more into this, I get one of two responses. Well, one of three responses. If people are into it, we geek out. The other two responses are blank stares. I don't know what you're talking about. Please get out of my face. And then there's sort of a response of like, they respond to what they think AI is, but it's not. And like one of the things I hear is they kind of assume AI is like you're taking two images from Andy Warhol and you're copying and pasting elements of those into some new image. That's not what this is. These tools are generating things out of nothing. And so this image that I'm about to show you explains it pretty well. So with AI tools, there are, let me put this in a new window. Let's see, open in a new tab, just so there's not all this advertising crap on it. So with AI images, there are kind of two AI engines that are working in concert. One is the language model that understands what the heck you typed in. And then the other one is this image model. So what ends up happening is the image model is millions, if not billions of images that have been, or basically in a database with descriptions of what they are. So they put it into this giant model, right? This giant model that understands all the words that are attached to these things. So when you type in your thing, the large language model generates kind of a mathematical value that it says, what you just asked me for equals this value. And then it goes and it looks into its database and it says, okay, you asked for an epic portrait of a cat. I know what cats are, so I've got all these pictures of cats, and you know they've got all these other tags and things like that. And I know what epic portraits are, and there's all these other tags for those. And then I know you asked for an epic portrait of a cat. So then what the system does is it deselects anything out of its model that is not kind of like the thing you asked for. So if you have 27 different attributes in there, one of them is Andy Warhol, and one of them is Andrew Wyeth, and one of them is cat, and one of them is hot dog, and it will pull all these sample images that it's like that, and it says, okay, the thing I'm going to create is going to have the attributes of, you know, this big bucket of images I have that have not been X'd out effectively. And then what it does, and this is fascinating to me, so if anyone knows more about this, it basically generates an image with random noise on it. And then through a series of denoising exercises, there's these algorithms that say, I'm going to take this noisy image and I'm going to denoise it. And what it does is it says, okay, there's this random image. Let me denoise it in the direction of that mathematical thing that I understood to be what you asked for. And then it does that like 50 or 60 times. So you'll see there's a one of the numbers you can choose when you generate these things is how many cycles do you want it to do? And it's how many cycles going from, you know, raw noise to a sophisticated image. And so the thing it comes up with, it is generating out of nothing. Like it is literally coming from random noise and then just getting progressively more like what you asked for. And that's why when you use the exact same prompt, if you're not using the exact same seed, which is the whole thing, that's why you'll get very, very different images every time you render it, because it's just starting with random noise and then trying to get as close as it can to the thing that you asked for. So, make sense?
Yeah.
And anyone that knows actually what they're talking about, how far off am I?
I'm just curious about in the initial image of noise, like for example, we have this, and then it's going a bunch of different directions with filtering it out. So maybe in that initial image, there's all kinds of epic cats, and then it's just pulling towards which one depending on.
I don't know the details well enough to know that, but what I do know, someone raised their hand. So Roger has a question or a thought.
Yeah, so there was a great quote, I can't remember who it was from, talking about sculpting, where sculptor, you know, someone asked a sculptor how he creates sculpture. He said, well, I take a block of, you know, stone and I chip away everything that's not my sculpture.
Yeah.
And
it's
there's
effectively
an analogy here, which is you start off with this kind of messy thing, and it repeatedly takes away all the image that's not the thing you want. And like with sculpting, it's a gradual process, and sometimes not even, you know, a linear one. But it is a question of you start off with a bunch of stuff that sort of shouldn't be there, and you want to sort of very carefully figure out what stuff doesn't fit and take that away.
Yeah, and listen, how it gets so to these incredibly sophisticated images, I honestly don't know. Like, what is that the quote? Any technology significantly advanced enough, you know, seems like magic, is perceived as magic. This stuff is magic. Like, it is generating stuff. It is, we are in a different kind of computing here. Yeah, I'll wax poetic about that on a different day. I think this is a different kind of computing that we're dealing with. This is not like computers as we know it. But it's a really important point that if you think this is copying and pasting pieces of an image into a composite image, it's not. And that's where I think the copyright thing gets really bizarre. And if I've got 17 artists in here, what part of this is theirs? Like, so I like the level of complexity of how artists figure out if they're in these models or not is going to be really tough to figure out. Okay.
Does it generate pieces of the image at a time? Like,
it does it all at once.
Because so I know from Midjourney, I don't know how Midjourney works as well as I would like to, but I know as it's generating an image, it will like basically copy and paste. You can watch it generate. You can watch every iteration as it goes through, and the faces in particular, you can see that it appears to be copy and pasting different faces onto whatever character you have generated. So I'm just kind of curious. Yeah, I'm curious, like the technical explanation of that. Like,
yeah, I don't know.
Because it just kind of seems like as you watch it generate, it to me, it seems like it doesn't know what it's going for from the beginning. Like what it's going for changes as it runs through the algorithm.
It does. It's all I know is it's a denoising algorithm.
Okay.
So what it's saying is that face is noisier than what. So maybe it is looking at the background and it's saying that all looks fine to me. That looks like what you asked for, but this part doesn't. So I'm going to denoise it. So. And denoising it might look like I'm taking little pieces from all these other things and swapping them in there. And then the next cycle, maybe I go, nope, that still isn't right. And you know, that's why sometimes you just end up with faces that are all over the place.
Yeah, faces tend to be like one of the hardest ones.
And hands are a disaster, right? Okay. So that's kind of it in a nutshell. Again, it's, you know, I don't know. This is a new thing we're dealing with. That's the thing that's hit me. Okay. You've all got access to this document. What I tried to do is I tried to put things in here that you can go home tonight and run down as many rabbit holes as you want. This is a directory called Futurepedia that these are all AI tools. And there are 391 tools in it. Last week or like 10 days ago when I looked, there were 309. And they even say we're adding 5 of these a day. Every one of these tools, you could probably spend, you know, the next month mastering. So the amount of tool and these tools might just be a really fancy front end put on top of some AI model on the back end. But you know, there's 154 text tools. There's 100 image tools. There's 83 marketing tools. There's some marketing folks in here. There's 53 assistants. There's 46 design tools. There's 46 coding tools. I'm going to show you ChatGPT and what it does with code in a second. Mind blowing, right? So I only show this site to say, if you really want to geek out on all the different kinds of AI tools that are out there and you want to explore not just images, but all this other stuff, part of my goal for this group is I don't want this just to be about images. I think the art thing is the most visible and it's the most one where you go, holy crap. But this is as revolutionary for all these other disciplines. So this is just a good site to go look at that stuff. Okay. Then I thought, what's free, right? Like some of these tools like Midjourney you have to pay for and they're really complicated. So I tried to just I picked one for writing, one for music and one for art that you can just go play with if you haven't done this before. I'm gonna use ChatGPT. So this is one of the writing tools. Let's see. It is getting so hammered that the performance on it's been really bad. So I might use the less sexy interface here, which I'll show you. Let's see how it goes. But
where you said that you will have access to your document.
Yeah.
Where was that at?
I sent it in the email for here, and then I also posted it as a comment in the meetup. And I'll also, one of the things we'll talk about at the end, we're going to put together this Discord server. We'll have like a resources area within that, but we need some help with that. But anyway, let me grab. Okay, so write. So what I put was write 10 original song titles for a funk band called Buzzy Steps. Just came up with a silly thing. Let's see if how the performance is on this. Okay, so in 10 seconds, here are 10 songs for this band called Funky Steps. Now, let me do the follow-up. Let's see, Buzzy Steps Boogaloo.
Yeah.
Write the lyrics for Buggy Steps Boogaloo. So not only is this writing lyrics, it understands what verses are, it understands what choruses are, it's rhyming them.
That you wanted a song at all.
And then you wanted a song at all. And now I could say, give me the chords, chords, tempo, and dynamics. Yeah, exactly. That's insane. Okay, this one says so. The other tool that I have here, which is also by OpenAI, this is sort of the non-sexy version of the same tool. But this will give you chords and everything like that. So both of these are in there. Let me show you one other thing that ChatGPT does. One of the guys that works for me is a coder, and he gave me this code, and I don't know what the hell it means. But we're going to reset the thread. Oh, the other thing about ChatGPT is that it's remembering everything you talked about before. So if it gives me those lyrics, I can now go in and say, hey, I don't like the chorus on that. And it will go in and it'll rewrite the chorus because it knows. So it's remembering in context this conversation. You can go really deep. I saw a guy go pretend you're a text adventure game and walk me through it and give me, every time there's a decision, give me 4 choices. And he started playing this text adventure game that this thing was generating dynamically, right? Insane. So if I say reset thread, I'm kind of resetting the thing. So this prompt is create a chunk of JavaScript code that it returns. There's bad grammar here. You can do bad grammar and bad spelling. That returns the sum of all the multiples of 3 or 5 below the number passed in. Additionally, if the number is negative, return 0. Whatever it means. So it is now writing code. This model understands all languages, including programming languages. And I might say, can you show the difference if the number is negative? I still don't know what that means, but but it is now explaining how it's going to change the code, changing it, and explaining what it's doing. So and you can go on with this. Just in the spirit of time, we're going to move on. But go play with this. So this is what they're calling GPT 3.5, which is sort of this kind of more advanced version of GPT 3, which was the one that made all the headlines. GPT 4 is apparently coming out this month or next. And from what I've heard, it's going to be mind-blowing. My guess, my prediction, because OpenAI has DALL-E, has the image thing as well as this, my prediction is GPT 4 could well be multimodal, where you can generate images, you can generate text, you can generate potentially music. I don't know. That's my guess. But as I start to think about these tools, the boundaries of creative expression get really blurry. Because I could take the lyrics from that song and say, create me an album cover for my funk band Buzzy Steps that incorporates the character that you introduced in this song. And it can do that. And then if there's a music tool attached to it, I'm like, go write me 10 grooves that I can, now fake sing it for me because I don't have my singer here and I can't carry a tune, right? So So yes, question or comment.
Yeah, I have a comment because I've attended a webinar about this scenario where the lines kind of blur. And let's say you wanted to copyright those lyrics. That would be very kind of problematic, especially, if you're doing it with art, because the webinar I attended was more geared towards art. But the consensus was so far is that you can't copyright straight up AI generated stuff. You have to alter it in some way. And how you do that will depend on whether or not you can copyright it. And it's just kind of interesting that as of right now, just straight up AI generated things are not considered unique enough, I guess, to be copyrighted by themselves.
Do you know,
Yeah.
KR, do you know who owns the copyright to it? Like who owns the rights to that image or who owns the right to that art? Do they talk about that at all?
Anybody owns the copyright. So anybody
Right.
could take anybody's art and
Yep.
sell it or copyright it, especially if they alter it just a little bit.
Interesting.
I know on Midjourney gives all rights to the images to the creator of the image, the person who entered the text prompt. That's how their contract agreement is written for their members. And again, it's a paid membership, so they would be like committing fraud if that wasn't the case, that we didn't own copyright of our own images. I do know that there are a lot of I know it's a legal gray area, and there's a lot of heated discourse about it right now. So it totally makes sense that there could have been a webinar, a conversation somewhere of people who have taken kind of that hardline stance. But to my understanding, that's more of to be a little bit blunt, wishful thinking of how they want the law to be applied. It hasn't happened yet. It's too new. There haven't been enough cases that have actually gotten to the courts for them to make these rulings about whether or not, like I said, Midjourney has told me that I own my copyright. I won't actually know until I'm sued for something and I take that to court, whether or not.
Or if you want to protect it, right? What he's saying is you might not be able to copyright it. I think
if I wanted to file a copyright, which I don't know, I want to look into that. If people have tried to file copyrights and failed, I haven't heard that yet. If that were the case, in my opinion, that would make Midjourney's contract to me fraudulent or invalid, because they've told me that I do in fact own that.
Yeah. And I also, I don't know how you prove what's original, what's not. Like I created lyrics for this band called Buzzy Steps. I might have generated the band name from AI. I might have generated the lyrics from it, but that's the name of my band. So where is the boundary? The legal thing are such deep waters. I think we're going to have to confront those over time.
Yeah, it's going to be murky.
Maybe at some point we bring in, lawyers on both sides of this argument. One lawyer that's like, tough crap, you're not protecting anything, and why would you need to? And one who's like, I'm going to sue the hell out of everyone. Like that might be an interesting thing to do.
I think it'll also be interesting because there's literally a case that was just seen by the Supreme Court, which is Lynn Goldsmith versus the Andy Warhol Foundation. And so they haven't, though they're supposed to come out with their decision by the end of the year. So Lynn Goldsmith's a really famous rock and roll photographer who actually lives in Colorado, and she has tons of Rolling Stone covers, and she is suing the Andy Warhol Foundation because he took one of her photographs and slightly adapted it in sort of the Andy Warhol style, and then they've made zillions of dollars off of printing on T-shirts and all these different things, and she hasn't seen a cent. And so it'll be interesting to see sort of how that then trickles into this category.
Because that's similar to the Obama change poster Shepard Fairey story, but I'm trying to actually remember, was the outcome of that it was transformative or not? Do you remember offhand? So, and we can also save this for another day. But I find I think we could have a whole session dedicated to the legal environment of this, because it's very confusing and complicated.
Yeah, we could probably have one every session for the next 5 years.
Absolutely.
And also, but one fun thing
fill the meeting.
to use for this,
Also, I wonder if that's an opportunity for the Discord channel. We could have a legal Discord group. We could have a legal channel, and as you guys are finding legal stuff coming up, we can put it.
I really want to watch we're gonna see
Yeah.
it play out in real time.
Yeah.
What the rulings are. It'd be great to have a channel where we
Yep.
can kind of share the news as it comes in.
Yeah, that's great.
Yep.
A more useful use case from a legal perspective, actually, I've been using it to generate like addendums to contracts and
Oh,
stuff,
yeah.
and then reviewing them.
Yep.
And like it's pretty solid compared to what I would have like a lawyer generate if I compare like old ones that I've had a team generate.
Yep.
And so it's I guess I went to someone I'm contracting with today, and they're like, "Oh, this looks good."
Yeah.
Cool.
So saves you some money if you're.
Yep.
Sure.
Okay. Moving on, and I know I'm rushing, but I'm just rushing because there's a lot of stuff I want to get to. So I'd encourage you go play with Chat GPT or even the Playground, which seems to have better performance. Try to break it. Like there are things that you can break it with. They've got some limits in there. Like if you try to say, how do I kill my puppy? Like, oh, we don't want you to hurt animals. We don't want you to commit crimes. So, but everything else, like I've tried to break this in many ways. It will sometimes get things wrong, but you can just tell it, oh, that's crappy. Make it more interesting. And it does. Like, but
Training it too.
yeah. So I encourage you to go play that. For the musicians, this is a site called SoundDraw. This is another one. When I came to this site, the interface was much more limited. Today, they completely revamped the interface on this. So this is one. Select the mood of the music you want, select the genre of the music you want, select the theme of the music you want. All of these are just starting points, but
That's crazy.
let's see. Here's funk. And
Like, does that just puts all of stock royalty-free music
So-
out of
stock, yeah, and actually John's on the call from Adobe, but Adobe today announced what was the announcement, John, that they're rolling AI generated art into Adobe stock?
Yeah, to be honest, I haven't read all the details, but I think that's a top line. I'll find the post about it. But certainly drawn some strong reactions, to say the least.
Yeah, and listen, it's going to draw strong reactions, and the need for stock houses is, if not gone, very quickly on its way. Now, something like Adobe Stock could say, hey, why don't we take all of the images in our stock library and let's create officially licensed AI models that you can generate images that look like this photographer or that illustrator. They'll still get paid if you use their model. So like, I think we'll start to see really interesting things, but like, why would I need stock illustrations if I can literally pop onto one of these tools and go, illustrate me this, and take 10 minutes and make something that's better than I could have imagined, right? So it's, we're in deep waters. Okay, back to this tool. So here's the things. Now, the length, I can say, I want this to be 1:30.
So is this generating like songs or
This
stems?
is generating songs and stems, and it's doing them kind of in real time. I can say, oh, I hate acoustic guitar, and I hate electric guitar, and okay, so. And then it's starting out low energy. I can change that to medium energy to start. Here's this.
This is paid. This is free.
I'm sure the license it's free to play. I'm sure
So
if
you
you
want to actually export and use something.
yeah, but again, so I just went through this. So I have a video company, a video technology company, and we were using stock music. And at some point, the copyright thing came up, and they said, "Oh, you have to pay us gazillions of dollars because you're automating video editing, which is what we do. So you got to pay us gazillions of dollars." So I'm like, oh, "Okay." So this was last year. I went on Fiverr and I found musicians who would compose me music, and it was a painful 2-month back and forth where we found 20 musicians. 10 of them delivered something reasonable. 5 of them were okay. 2 of them were really good. It took us months to just sift through this stuff. Now we have a library of 50 songs through that 2-month thing. I could knock 50 songs out here in half an hour that are everything we need it to be, right? And again, it's not this tool, or like, just take this as a category, right? The disruption here is going to be massive because like the speed with which I just generated that stuff is mind blowing.
I do think there's still like a question of quality on a lot of these generators so far. I think they'll probably get to a better place.
I agree.
But at least right now, I don't see it being super plausible for this to actually fully replace jobs, because you would still need, like, in anything, in music, in art, in writing, you still need a person with like taste and judgment to evaluate what has been generated and say, like, okay, if it gives you 50 songs, which one is a good song? It takes a person to identify that.
I think the difference is that the vast market of musicians who would make that music will disappear. So instead of having, or photographers, right? So instead of having hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of photographers who are going to make the images you're going to use, you might have a few, but then you would then mostly have people tweaking the AI images that have been created. So it's like I think the AI will be the first creators, and then you'll have the editors and the post people working on those images to sort of breathe human life into them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That makes sense.
You can also you can generate, so like that thing, you just generate a bunch of stems, which would be like the beat or like a riff, and then pull that into a song and make a song with that. And there's actually like entire companies whose premise is selling stems.
Yep.
And like stem packs and things like that. So you're like, oh, I want, like, and major DJs and stuff put out stem packs that they make money off because other DJs want to use their sound.
Mm-hmm.
And so it'll be interesting to see, like, you could feed in, oh, I want a song that sounds like some famous artist. You're like, but I want it in this style, and maybe it could generate that. And so you don't even need to like go buy these stem packs anymore.
Yeah. I think there's also there's a question of what's good enough. If I'm creating a feature film that I want to win an Academy Award for, I'm going to hire John Williams, or he died, didn't he?
Wait, what?
No, he didn't. Okay, good. I know one of them just died. But anyway, I'm going to hire a famous composer to do that, right? But if I'm doing my crappy little testimonial videos that I do for my thing, you only hear 5 seconds of it anyway.
Yep.
It's just sitting there to erase some sins. It doesn't need to be good at all.
Yeah.
So what is the size of the industry where good enough is this level?
Yep.
And it's pretty big. It's
and I think the quality is increasing.
and
over
the
time,
quality is
so it's gonna
increasing.
keep
Yeah,
expanding.
exactly. So anyway,
Agreed.
I think too is that it really only needs to get one person to increase the quality, and then it increases permanently.
Yeah.
So,
Your job could just be the curator of the things coming out of these things.
Yeah, that's what it's looking like right now, is that it's more like all of the kind of creative professional jobs are going to be creative curator jobs of AI generated stuff.
Applying your taste.
Or like brand identity. Like an AI can generate lots of stuff, lots of material, but it needs a person to say this is consistent with our brand or not consistent with our brand.
I think at the base of it, though, that comes down to that is what an artist truly is at the base of it.
Agreed. Like I don't know that that's necessarily problematic, other than people might stop investing the time in more of that hands-on training that artists and creative professionals typically get at the beginning of their careers before becoming the creative director level, where they're overseeing AI work.
And also, as a creator, it takes years and years and years of practice until you're at a point where you reach that mastery, right? And so and a lot of that work comes from that kind of good enough work, just the practice of over and over and over. And so if the young creators aren't getting that practice over and over and over because the AI is doing it, how do we achieve mastery?
Yep.
Agreed. Totally agreed.
Alexia, you had a question? Or
Yeah,
comment?
and to build on that, if we're relying on AI more than we are like allowing artists, hiring artists and working more with artists, then the AI is just going to continue to regurgitate what already exists, and then art itself is not going to evolve, and so then you lose that humanity of self-expression, and it will just continue to be a regurgitation and become pretty stale. So I would also argue that we need to continue advocating for and putting artists on a platform and integrating them into the process and not replacing them with AI, because we're always going to need that human eye and that human introspection and that human interrogation of our experience in life.
Yeah.
And I
And
think it also brings up a sort of incredible opportunity to talk about what it even means to be human. So how does, what is the human experience of creating versus the machine learning experience of learning? I know we're getting pretty deep here, but that, what does it mean to be human and what does it mean to create as a human?
No, that's what this group is about, right? Like that's why I started, because I think here's part of my vision for this is we don't just have to talk about this in theory. Like, let's figure out where the boundaries of copyright are by trying to do it. Let's figure out where the boundaries.
I don't want to get
right?
sued, but yeah, let's do some research.
But let's play. Like to Leah's point,
yeah.
like let's play. Like this is a place where we can play. Like, what's the harm? Because right now everyone's laughing at this, right? It's like the early days of the web. Everyone's like, oh, those geeks off in the corner. It changed the world. Well, same thing here. I think it's going to change the world a lot faster, but we get to play in this.
Yeah.
Like that's how I'm thinking about it. Like, how lucky are we, right?
Yeah.
So
and I think developing the skills now, these like sandbox early days skills, is going to put everyone legs miles ahead of everyone else, who is then going to have to play catch up on how all of this stuff works.
Exactly. Okay. So speaking of that, the next tool I'm going to show you. So this is the free tool that Stable Diffusion lets you play with. It's just a website that you go to. It's beta.dreamstudio.ai/dream. This is linked in that document. I'm gonna do a little bit of an example here. I'm gonna go pretty quickly through it. But you can do fancier versions of this. This is just like a nice, sort of interface on the front end, but it's free. They let you play with it. You can set up your own things where you're running it on Google Colab and you can really geek out, or you can just do things in, if you go to the Stable Diffusion Discord or the Midjourney Discord, you make all the images within Discord server. Okay, so at the bottom, here's your prompt. So I'm just going to go ahead and hit Dream. So the prompt is A Dream of a Distant Galaxy by David Caspar, David Frederick, matte painting, trending on ArtStation HQ. And it generated that. I'm just going to hit Dream again. Same prompt, didn't change anything. It gave me something completely different. So this is that idea that what this thing is doing in the background is starting with noise and trying to get to something that matches what that prompt is. Now, I can change the dimensions of it. So over here to the right, I can go, let's make this kind of cinematic and, nice and widescreen here. Changing the aspect ratio will often dramatically change the results you get in the prompt. So here it just is kind of more epic. We can even, let's go like Quentin Tarantino, Hateful Eight, 70 millimeter, like completely different. Couple other things that you'll see. So mucking with the aspect ratio will change things. Stable Diffusion, its default resolution is 512 by 512 pixels, which is really small. I think the new one, it goes up to 700 and something by 700 and something. All of these images, you can also use these tools to upscale them. Mm-hmm. And it's not like Photoshop upscaling. Sorry, John. Well, it is now. It's got AI in it, but it's not like Photoshop upscaling where it's just making pixels bigger and kind of smoothing between them. This is actually filling in details as it upscales things. The CFG scale, this one took me a couple of weeks to get my head around. The default number is 7. I think the high end of this is 20, yeah, and the low end is 0. What this scale is how close to the prompt that you wrote do you want the AI to attempt to make the image? The higher you make it, the more consistent it will be with what you wrote. So I'll put it at 20. Let's see what it does. So this is A Dream of a Distant Galaxy by this guy. I don't know. It did that. I'll hit another one here. I don't know why I put it in a book that time. I don't know. That gave you that. If you go to 0, it has almost nothing to do with the quote. So you get more creative results that are less predictable if you go to 0. Like that's not like what is that? That's like sort of a cave house with treasure chests and a bat looking something kind of thing. The CFG scale of 7 tends to be the thing where a lot of these tools default. And again, I know Stable Diffusion, so Midjourney might be slightly different, but
I think it's called Stylize, and it's
a similar
scale.
similar sort of thing.
I think Stylize is probably
it's probably the same thing. Yeah. 7 is kind of where they start, so it'll give you a good creative result, but still kind of in the neighborhood of what you're looking for. Sometimes if I'm trying to do stuff that gets more predictable, I'll sort of knock that up to 12 or 13. But basically, as you're doing something, sometimes you're in ideation mode and you want it to be wild, so you sort of crank it down. And other times you want to get more predictable. I think that's part of the art of this, is you can generate ideas really quickly. Sometimes where it gets frustrating for me is, oh, I want to dig deeper on that thing, and then I can't get back to it. It like, it goes off. And
Midjourney now, it's a relatively recent ad, has a tool that's called Remix.
Yes.
So from this image, you could then change the prompt and stick with this image. So now that you've seen this image, you're like, actually, this kind of makes me think of Mars, and it's weirdly too blue to be Mars. So now I want it to be a guy staring at the sun on Mars, and then remix it, and it would regenerate this image
and keep the
as
composition.
the composition, keep certain details, and just change basically what you tell it to change.
Yep. So that's CFG scale. That's a good one to play with. Steps is number of cycles.
Matt, can I just make a quick comment about the CFG scale? I don't know if anybody knows more information about this, but I'm aware of some sort of bug with the CFG scale where if you kind of move the slider past 60% of where it started or so, that it or even below 30% or so, it can give you, it can start creating some weird images and giving you artifacts in your images. I don't know if anybody knows more information about it.
Interesting.
No.
Seems like another thing to follow up on a Discord.
Exactly. I think that the need for a Discord is
so actually, if we make a Discord, if anyone is of interest, I can install Midjourney for free onto our Discord.
I already installed it.
Oh, you're already okay. You're on top of it.
Yeah.
Sorry, I wasn't sure just because you were talking about using this one more. So
yeah, I use this one more, but Stable Diffusion doesn't have a Discord bot yet.
Okay, got it.
Midjourney does.
Yes, it does.
And the only reason I'm cranky about that is I haven't paid for Midjourney and I'm out of my free credit. So even on our server, I can't use it. So anyway, I'm a little bitter. Okay.
Well, I pay for it, and if I don't know if that
I
can like lend it to.
I don't know. Now we're getting into Netflix subscription sharing. So that's a whole nother copyright thing or trademark thing. Steps is the number of cycles of denoising, basically. So if you wanted to sort of keep running, like I'll push this up to 72. I don't know if it's going to make it particularly more detailed, but it sometimes does. I generally put steps around 50. Depending on the tool you're using, like if you're running this locally, like there's more detail in the sky here. That might be because there's more steps there.
It's also added. I'm sorry, I keep talking.
No, please.
Really it's put it onto a surface. You see the texture in the top left. It's basically made it like a book or a frame. Sometimes adding more steps or layers basically takes the thing and makes it like a photo of that thing or a book of that thing.
Yeah.
So it's adding almost like layers when it adds steps.
Yep. So that's steps. If you're like, you can run Stable Diffusion. There's a tool for Mac. I forget what it's called. Anyone know what it's called? Something, I don't know. But you can run it on an M1 Mac. But the more steps you use, the more GPU cycles it uses. So it can take longer. So if you're running it locally, you might want to keep that low. You can also do a number of images. So Midjourney defaults to 4, but you can also set this tool to give you multiple options in a single pass, which just gives you more things to play with, which is kind of cool. The sampler is automatic. That's chosen for me. The model Stable Diffusion 2.0. There's all sorts of different versions of this. This is the thing where, like, why this group exists now. These tools are so geeky right now. If you don't have a computer science degree, you can quickly get lost in all the parameters you can change. The work that I'm doing for my art project, I know like 4 parameters that I muck with, and I really don't touch anything else. And even when I want to do something like in painting or out painting, if I haven't done it, I'm like, I don't know what to do. So it can be very overwhelming. So I would say just start with a tool like this if you haven't done anything, and just play with like the sliders here. You don't need to muck with anything else. The other thing, let's see, let me go back to one image here and show you one other thing, because this was mentioned in an earlier conversation. Okay. At the bottom here, you see this thing called seed. Oh, wait, it just got rid of it for me. Hang on, let me render again.
So on this, how do you keep the base image the same and just kind of run on top of this as the inspiration?
Well, that's so the seed number here, you can barely see it on screen, but it's like 40522514888. That's the sort of seed of that initial random noise image for this image. So if you use the same seed, you'll kind of do variations of a thing. I think Midjourney's remix feature is some version of sort of locking the seed and mucking with it. I'll be honest, my ability to repeat things consistently is very low because I haven't explored it, but there's some people that are really good at it. And I think, Leah, weren't you playing with, you took some of your images and played with them, right? Where you kept some things consistent and got rid of other things?
Yeah, so I've been playing around with, and so let me make sure I have the name. So seed is the initial image that's used to create the noise. Is that right? So if I use one of my own images, I'm using my image as the seed. Do I have that? No, that's not it. Okay.
I don't know. I don't.
Yeah,
I don't know. I think it's a different, but it's in the neighborhood.
Okay. Yeah. So I've been playing with taking images that I made, photographs that are in the studio, and then using that photograph by putting different prompts. And I've been playing around with like how real can I make these photos, right? So I think there's a lot of imagery being made that's fantastical, which is fantastic. But what I'm interested in is how to sort of recreate the images I'm making and can you tell this was made by machine learning? And what does it mean? Like, what does a human image look like that's made by machine learning? Yeah, and just playing with the Stable Diffusion tools. And I posted some of those. Once the Discord's up and running, I tried posting some of that in Discord today too, as I'm getting used to using the Discord channel.
Yeah, that's great. And the other thing about this is, YouTube is still our friend. Like, there are YouTube tutorials on every single thing you might want to try. So mess around with it till you get confused, and then you can find someone that'll walk you through it. So anyway, this is Dream Studio Lite. So this is a free Stable Diffusion tool. Okay. I'm not going to dig too deep into these because we're running low on time, but in the sort of tools of the week, here's Stability AI's website. Just for a little context, Stability is the company behind Stable Diffusion. They're a 1-year-old company. Their seed round of financing was $101 million. A seed round of a company is usually like $500,000, $1 million. $101 million for their initial funding. They're a year old, and the other thing that they're doing, which is remarkable, is they're open sourcing all of their technology. So they're putting these models out into the world, and then the developer community is pouncing on them because it's all open sourced. So what happens is every time Stability makes an improvement to this tool, usually within hours, but within a day or two, all of these developers have got all sorts of different fancy front ends for them. It's remarkable. Midjourney is the one that you use. That one you have to create in Discord. I don't know that are there front ends for Midjourney, or is it all still in Discord?
I think it's all still in Discord. I use Discord. You can install the bot into your own Discord, any Discord.
Yeah.
It's pretty easy to do. I think they have like a front end in the works, and I don't know if a third party has developed one yet, but if so, I haven't used it.
Yeah. So I know Stable Diffusion, so let me use this one. So in the Stable Diffusion Discord, if you don't know Discord, that's fine, but there's these things called dream bots. So in here, this is where you can create images. So you type /imagine.
Oh, so it is the same.
And then you put in your prompt after that. So I would say, if you haven't done this at all, and don't know Discord, just go to tool like the Dream Studio, if you do know Discord, Stable Diffusion and Midjourney both have all sorts of instructions in here on how to generate these images within them. Midjourney is really cool because it's got, let's see.
They're ready to generate like privately on here.
What's that? You can open a new channel within Midjourney and then do your things within there. But I think
people still
yeah,
come in.
I think it's all like Midjourney is much more public. So Stable Diffusion gives you the chance to install on your local machines.
You can create privately if you install the bot into your own Discord server. So like, so if one is made for this group, anything that we make in there, like you could have your own private channels in there as well.
Yeah. The other thing about Midjourney is like, here's this really long, complicated prompt that generated these 4 images. Within Midjourney, you can upscale any of those 4 images. You can also get variations on those 4 images. So if you see something you like, you can refine it. And now with that remix tool, you can really refine it. So I would say from a quality standpoint, Midjourney is better than Stable Diffusion, but Stable Diffusion is very quickly catching up. We're going to start to see Coke and Pepsi wars. Like, are you a Midjourney, guy or gal? Okay.
It's interesting too how much the bots, the different collections of data that the bots are referring to can create different outputs for the same prompts. Like Midjourney just added a V4 and the same prompt in V3 and V4 makes completely different things. And I imagine the same is true of Stable Diffusion versus Midjourney as well. I just haven't done that.
One of the links I have on here is, here are, oh wait, this is artists. This is, one of these images is Midjourney, one of them is Stable Diffusion. So here's a bunch of different artists, and it's comparing how those 2 models render differently, right? So some of them are better at certain styles than others. So you can go play with that. DALL-E is the one from OpenAI. So OpenAI is the one that did GPT-3 and ChatGPT. DALL-E is their image tool. That's just one of my hypotheses about GPT-4 is why would they not roll these tools together? But you can go play with those. Somebody wants in. Hold, please. All right. Okay. Now, prompt crafting. I personally feel that the skill of the next 5 years has to do with prompt crafting, and whether or not they call it that, that's what I'm calling it right now because it sounds kind of arty. You're crafting a prompt. Our ability as creatives to ask these tools to give us what we want and get good at that, the people that get good at that fast are going to work, right? Because this is going to be a mystery to everyone, but what people are going to know, what businesses are going to know is, I know this crap can be done because I've seen it done. Oh, you can do that? You're in. How much do you charge? Oh, come on. Like I feel like that's coming, but you've got to understand prompt crafting. It is insanely complicated. If you're a programmer, the engineers in the room, if you're good at engineering, they also call it prompt engineering. You can really go deep on this stuff. So let me just, walk you down a couple of the paths. The first eye-opening thing I had was, this is a very horribly designed web page. But this is, they took the same prompt, Utah Teapot, and I'll do it for Midjourney. There are sort of base aspect ratio. So just based on aspect ratio, it will generate different teapots. There are movement styles and themes, like give me a teapot from the 1000s, from the 1600s, from the 1900s. Mediums. Here's an assembly drawing, here's crosshatch, here's dot hatch. So these tools understand a staggering amount of parameters. Here's one made of amethyst, here's one made of agate, here's one made of concrete. Camera properties for the photographers in the room. give me something with this kind of lens on it, like camera lengths and views. Here's a 45 millimeter lens. Here's a 50 millimeter lens. Here's a 60 millimeter lens. Is it actually creating something that's using that lens? I don't know, but it changes, something, like it understands enough to, yeah. Someone had something to say? What else?
The answer to your question is no.
Yeah. But understanding the level of sophistication that these models can understand helps you say, oh, if I educate myself about art history or, certain styles of cinematographers or filmmaking, these models likely know it. So you can go creatively into a direction the more you understand what's here.
Have you seen any of this generating in 3D models?
Yes, it's coming. So there's a new, I think it's in Stable Diffusion 2.0. There's a thing called depth. Anybody know what it's called? Depth. It's not depth mapping, but basically Stable Diffusion 2.0 can take an image and it will look at the image and it will figure out what's in the foreground and background and create a depth map for it. And then you can take that image. It's kind of like remixing. You can then take that image and spin off new iterations of it. So if the character's a robot, you can now make it a teddy bear, and you can now make it a this or that.
Where I'm going is, like, I could say I need a tool that is this long and then does this specific purpose, and then it generates a 3D model, and then I 3D print that tool.
That's coming, and
not through the art bots.
Yeah,
but
it's
soon.
It's
playing around with the art bots makes it clear that kind of AI is coming very, very soon. Like basically the ability to have anything on demand, to print anything on demand, to create anything on demand.
Yeah. Oh, that's another area. Oh, sorry, go ahead. Someone had something online?
Yeah, the problem with that is training data. That there are mountains and mountains of 2D images that have been scanned with labels and stuff for training. There just isn't that for 3D objects. I mean, there could be, but that's not what people have been doing. And so you have to,
but that seems like the next logical step.
It's coming. There's one thing. Yeah. So
really,
look at what's on screen here. So this is, they're taking some rigged models that they did, in whatever the 3D program was, and then they're having Stable Diffusion take those animation frames and rendering on top of it. So I think that the distance from where we are for what you're asking for, again, this stuff is moving so fast, and because they're open sourcing it, some geek out there is going to figure out how to extrapolate depth data, turn that into a 3D model, and so it's coming. Okay, I know I'm going fast. We've got 15 minutes left. I want to hit a couple other things. This list of artists, this just blew me away because I've seen a lot of lists of artists, but these are all the artists that these models understand. Just think from a creative ideation standpoint, if you're kind of stuck creatively, you can come here and you could take the same prompt and just change out the name, find something that you like, interesting. And like I'm scrolling pretty fast here, right? So we're still at the B's. This is Blumenthal. This is Birchfield, Byron. Now we're in the C's. Like there's a staggering amount of reference work here, but every one of these things you see, the model understands some version of how to give you something that looks like that. Okay. I'm not going to go through this. I want to. I would strongly recommend you spend time with this thing. This is Open Art's prompt book is what they're calling it. Hopefully it loads. Come on. Okay, this is a 95-page PowerPoint presentation that teaches you how to write prompts. And you're like, why would I need 95 pages? You just write it in there. Well, let me sort of jump in here. talks about stable diffusion, talks about prompt engineering, talks about seeds and some of the elements that are in there, talks about the format. Do you want a photo or a painting? What's the subject of the photo? An animal, perhaps? A landscape? What details do you want to add? Special lighting, environment, color scheme, point of view, background. Is it in a specific style? 3D render, studio, movie poster. Is there a specific photo type, a macro lens, right? And then as you go through here, it gives you examples of different outputs. But then, like for example, for the photographers, here's all the different kinds of photography terms that it knows. Tilt shift, color splash. So this will walk you through how to craft prompts. So you could spend the next month just geeking out on prompt crafting without learning anything fancy about the back end, and you will be blown away. Like you will. And those of you doing this, you already are, right? That's why you're here. This stuff. So this is a really good resource. Okay. If you hate me right now and you're like, I don't want to geek out, Kyle, I just want to make pretty pictures, then go to this site. This is an AI tool that you're like, I'm lazy, generate prompt, and it will generate you a prompt. Generate you a prompt, and it will generate you a prompt. And you pop those into your tool and you're like, holy crap, that's good. And then you can run down that rabbit hole. So like, speed of ideation is insane. Like, I have ADD. I love my ADD. It's overwhelming for me. It's like, it's too much. Okay.
I think I find it also helpful to, especially if you're just learning or trying out these platforms for the first time, use either that generator or steal someone else's prompt on the Discord and then edit it.
Yep.
It helps a lot with like some of the things that towards the end of the string that you're like, I don't know what that means. Just steal it from someone else and play with it and see what it does. I've got
the stealing site here. I've got that as a resource. So this is my favorite one. There's a bunch of these out there, but this one's called Lexica. Someone has a question or a comment.
Yeah, so I would particularly recommend that you set the CG, the 3-letter thing value, the slider, set it way up to a very high value so that you don't get a lot of random variation, and then make small changes to the prompt so you can see what the effects of the prompt change are as opposed to the random fluctuation that happens all the time.
Yeah, good idea. Good idea. Great. Okay, Lexica. So this is just like, a big pile of images. These are all AI generated. Every image you roll over or click on, there's the prompt that made this up. There's the CFG setting that it was on. There's the seed. If you want to start with this exact seed and iterate from this, here are variations of that exact prompt. You can literally copy that prompt and then paste it into a thing. This is the art project that I'm doing. This is my method. I come to this site, I find something I like the look of, I grab the prompt, I add my name to it, and then make a few modifications, and I just start rolling dice until I find something I like, and then I'll run down that rabbit hole. Okay, I think that's it. Prompt Mania, this is a prompt constructing tool that's got some of that art reference stuff built into it. It's a little overcomplicated for my taste, but it's a really interesting idea. I'm going to skip Pixel Mine. That was how I kind of got into all this stuff. It's a really interesting, it's built on top of Stable Diffusion, but it allows you to mint your creations into art series and into NFTs. So you can actually generate NFTs out of this. I'm just going to quickly show you the project. So I'm going to show you the project, but I want to talk about why I started it. So there were a couple of things. As I started playing with these tools, and I got completely overwhelmed with all these creative ideas, and I was like what almost happened with me was like these AI tools were kind of like, that shitty toy on Christmas morning where you're like really excited about it Christmas morning, and like 3 days later you're like, you don't care about it. It felt like, oh, this is a really fun toy, but like I very quickly got to what's the point, because you could do so much, so sophisticated, so quickly. It was like, what's the point? And so what I thought was, okay, I know the solution to this. The solution to it is give yourself constraints, like narrow your focus. And so once Dream Booth came out, where I could take my image and create like little perverted self-portraits of myself, I thought, okay, this is interesting. What could that turn into? So this project was really just an attempt for me to narrow the focus enough to say, if I know I'm trying to sort of execute this specific thing, then I only need to learn enough about AI to do that one thing. So that's where this came from. And it's called Kyle Shannon Dreams. And it came from, as I was looking at all these images of myself. So what ended up happening was, where is it? This is my photos library. And so I would be in Stable Diffusion and I would generate some images that looked like me. And if I found one that I liked, I would just drag it into photos. So I now have 1,100 photos in here. I've been doing this for like 3 weeks or 4 weeks, not that long. There's 1,100 photos in here that are all some version of me. Like, oh, here we are. There you are, John. There's also, these tools are not kind. If you do pictures of yourself, it's going to get mean. It knows I'm a fat, tubby bastard. Crazy things like, the wise, the wise me. So I started finding all these things, and I thought, well, what hit me was these are me and not me. It feels like me, but it's totally not me. And like what I started doing was like, oh yeah, I could have been like a space, captain. And I was having like these visceral feelings of like all of the lives I could have led. And I'm like, but I am living them, like they're living in these images. So I came up with this project called Kyle Shannon Dreams. And it's all of these dudes and a couple of women. You can, you don't need to be gender specific. We're very fluid here. But this was the first one I started with. I thought like this just felt like, cyberspace. And so I decided to write a story for every one of these characters. Like I wanted you to meet them. And so what he says is, and so it begins, there was a time until very recently where you had to live life to experience it. That time has passed. I now lead a life beyond explanation. I am immersed in a dreamscape so grand it defies all logic. These images are the artifacts of my existence. Welcome to my life. Welcome to my dream, right? And then I would just, upload the next one. And then I would write a little story for it. Here's me as not Ken, and I'm a little bitter about Ken. Someone asked me about Ken, and they always ask me about Ken. This is an image. This one for me is one. This is so far from my capability as an illustrator, designer, photoshopper, photographer, anything, and I love it. And it's like this is one that hit me like, you can do world-class art that is so far outside of your wheelhouse. Well, what do you do with that? I don't know. Like I could see, doing a whole series, just sort of running down this rabbit hole and doing a whole gallery show in this style that is a style I never would have had before, right? So a couple of things. I started using AI tools to write the copy for this, and then they're so short that I found I was spending as much time writing the prompt to get the thing I wanted as it would take me to just write it. So I just write these. But then I also thought, well, I've got a degree in acting and I know a little bit about filmmaking. So what if we brought these to life a little bit more? And so I didn't know TikTok and I didn't know any 20-somethings that were willing to teach me. So I took 4 hours one night and I just brute forced my way through fucking TikTok. It's a horrific interface. But I created sort of the moving versions of these. So
is there like a place that we could put everybody's kind of, I'm sure we've all got lots of pictures where we could share. I'd love to see everybody's. So is there like a place we could drop IG or something and just sort of follow each other?
Yeah, well, that's so let's sort of shift the conversation. So a couple of things. There's a couple of folks we need. If anyone knows Discord and is good at it, we need someone who can run our Discord and manage it. And we're also looking for someone, or sort of co-organizers that are, how do we put it, Leah? Not quite so hand wavy, more organized. So if you're organized and want to help do this, we're looking for that as well. So, Leah, what are your thoughts? Let's sort of tie this up. We have 5 minutes left.
Yeah, so I think in terms of what I think the group still sort of needs is someone who can be on Discord. And I mean, I can help out with it. I'm just not fluent in Discord. So someone who can kind of get us up and running and thinking about Discord and sort of be the Discord person. And then I think Kyle and I are both pretty good at thinking pretty big creative thoughts, but we could use someone who's good at like note taking, someone who can handle the admin piece of, getting everything up on Discord, writing the notes, the kind of the just that the okay, let's rein it all in and put it in a way that we can all benefit from the information. And I think those are two people that could be really useful to help the group.
Yeah, and it might also be helping to organize, the meetings moving forward, because, I want to have good speakers, right? I want people from this group speaking, but, hey, we've got John from Adobe here. He probably knows some people in the industry. Maybe we can get someone in who's working on one of these tools that we're using to talk about what's coming and how it works, right? So all that stuff needs to be managed. So if anyone's interested in volunteering to help out with that stuff, that's what we need. But that's where we are. Let's who's got what to say? I knew this is not the format I want moving forward, but I did want to just sort of machine gun out as much as I could, just so you guys had tools in your hands and we had a place to start from. But would love to hear anyone's thoughts about where your head is now versus where you came in.
I'm just trying to manage my fear.
Fear of what?
Change.
Yeah.
Yes, everything's gonna change.
Yeah.
And then I think everybody has to roll with it.
Yep.
Yeah, I can see like generative architecture. Like, I want to remodel my house and I have these criteria. Give me 50 designs and iterate on that.
I've
and
already been doing,
I'm out of a job.
even with Midjourney, like I just moved from one apartment to another, and I was like, basically decorate a living room for me with this color couch at this size, and I basically made like interior design plans.
Photo of your living room, like you uploaded photos of your living
No,
room.
it wasn't that good.
Yeah.
I probably could have done that. I think it was like I did it before Remix came out. Yeah, I could do that now.
Yeah.
So I guess I'm willing to help with the organization, or I mean, I know I have Discord and I know Discord a little bit, but I'm not an expert by any means. But so I just don't really know who. Like, do I send somebody an email? I don't really guess. I guess I don't know the.
Yeah, for now, I've got my email on the email that went out to everyone with the link to that document.
Get that.
Okay, so it might have gone to people's spam.
I'm going to put my email in the chat, and Kyle, maybe put your email in the chat too. And then if people need to get in touch, they can.
But yeah, I'm on Discord all the time for Midjourney anyway, so I'm happy to help out with that.
Okay, great, terrific. Yeah, and yeah, what else? What other thoughts does anyone have? And I know we're kind of at time, so
more show and tell.
More show and tell. Yeah, I know, exactly. Yeah.
What was, I guess my only other thought is, what is the cadence that we're looking to set for the meetings?
Bi-weekly, like we could probably meet more than that, but I feel like bi-weekly, it'll give us enough time to go off and play, and also organize, what we want to show in the next thing. So bi-weekly right now. And if we want, listen, we're all creating this, like I had the idea to kick it off, but like this is whatever we want this to be. I think Leah and I both have a vision that we want it to be a community. We want it to be about exploring and playing. But I honestly don't care. Quite frankly, like I'm leaving here really inspired. So, that's what I like. I want every time we meet, like we all walk out of here like, holy crap, I got to go try that. Like that's what I want.
So I think next steps would be if you're like KR, and I can't see the names of the people in the room, but if you guys can send me or Kyle an email, and we can sort of, or maybe send both of us, and we can just kind of, parse out the roles and make some plans for next week.
Sounds
We have
good.
analog technology in Denver. Here's my address.
Yeah.
What tool is the remix thing that you're mentioning on?
It's on Midjourney.
That's on
And
Midjourney.
so if once 'cause I didn't get the email that maybe already had the Discord. Once I get on, oh wait, and you already put Midjourney on it.
No,
On the
well, I already
Discord.
put it on. I haven't released the Discord because it's just a hot mess right now.
Okay.
With
Once we get that up, I'm also happy to like do a little voice explainer of like how to use that within our Discord. Because sometimes it takes just like a person to be like to like kind of walk you through it once.
so maybe that's an agenda item for the next meeting is over the next 2 weeks, you can work with Leah and I and Ken. We'll get the Discord set up to whatever level we're happy with. And then maybe the next meeting, you can present that.
Sure.
Okay, cool. Including, how to do Midjourney things within it.
Sure.
Cool. What other thoughts? Anybody from the internets? HT, what do you think?
I didn't realize that GPT could do source code, like you said. I just gave it a problem, and it got it right. I'm kind of blown away. I'm kind of reeling from the source code generator. I know that everybody's into visual art, and I am too. I really can't wait to try this stuff. But the thing tonight that actually kind of gobsmacked me was the source code generator. I just asked it to do a real basic algorithm, and like it did this complicated Euclidean square of squares result. I can't believe it.
It gives you the opportunity to kind of understand how the artists feel, right? And how
yeah
it gives you a little bit of a glimpse into the future, maybe.
Yep.
Glimpse into the future. Because as soon as it's good enough once, it's good enough for everybody.
Yeah.
Right.
To your point, Kyle, you can't get it to do that unless you understand how to construct the question.
Right.
Yes, exactly.
Back to the prompt.
There's still like I just don't see there being a world in which these don't still make a lot of mistakes that need to be caught by a person. Like the phases are just still a little off, the hands are still a little off, the code is still just a little off, and it requires a person to look at it and say that part's not right. So I don't know, I'm not that afraid.
But the great thing about machine learning is everybody is contributing to the improvement of the process and the learning, all of us. And so every time we enter a prompt, it just gets a little bit better. And you may not be able to see it now, but in 5 years, could you see it? Possibly, I think.
I am.
Yeah, go ahead. Sorry.
When the photography world went digital about 15 years ago, it was over. It was the end. Photographers there was going to be no more photography. This was it. And all sorts of things were created and developed because of digital photography. And I think this is feeling very similar to me. And people, the people are going to lose jobs and this is it. And I'm a photographer. Things are going to shift and change dramatically for me. But that doesn't mean it's going to be worse, right? It might be better. And new things are going to come up and new technology is going to come up. And ideally, we're the ones creating it, so we get to make it better. So I feel very optimistic. But there's a lot of fear because this is new and it's new technology. And anytime there's this kind of shift in technology, people are resisting it. That's a bigger conversation. But yeah.
It happened too with Squarespace, Wix, and like web design tools. All of a sudden, anyone could make a website, but that there's still a vast difference between someone on Squarespace making their first website and a web designer using those same tools. And I think that's what we're going to continue to see with AI is that, yes, an amateur can use it and make something pretty or make something coherent, but it takes a master to wield the tool into something that like hits the mark in all of the ways that it needs to.
Yeah, creative point of view is still really important. Leah, you're 20 odd years of having a photographic eye only aids in the stuff that you create.
Absolutely.
Right?
Absolutely. Yeah.
So
I completely agree.
Yep. Roger, you have a question.
So going back to our favorite car analogy, in the very, very early days of cars, you needed to know a lot about about how cars work to drive them effectively, and they weren't all that much competition to the good horse and buggy drivers. But fairly quickly, the people making cars figured out that if they want to sell a lot of them, you got to make it easy. And I'm certain that's going to happen with AI too. I mean, we're in the extremely early stages here. It's not, it's not a mystery to people that this stuff is hard to use. And within say 5 years, like you're saying, I suspect the difficulty of controlling a lot of stuff in the way people are interested in doing is going to decrease a lot. So I wouldn't count on the complexity of AI being a barrier to taking over stuff for very long. I mean, yes, it's a barrier now, but that won't last.
No, it won't. Anyway, I know we're at time, and anyone here in Denver, maybe we go out for a drink if you want. If those of you out there, feel free to crack a cold one. There you go.
Got my water.
But first of all, thank you all for coming. Leah, thank you for being my partner in crime here. I'm really excited about this.
So excited. About this group.
I'm so excited about this. I want to see it grow. I want to see you all go play. I would love to see you come back. And we will figure out over what Leah and I talked about is over the next 4 or 5 meetings, this group will sort of figure out what it is, and it will come into form. So what that means is if you have ideas for this, like contribute them, and this can be whatever we want it to be. So I'm really excited. So thank you all for coming, and hope it was worth 2 hours of your night. I know it's a big deal meeting in person and on the East Coast and New Zealand, whatever the hell you were meeting.
Well, I want to just say thanks for organizing it, because it's something I'm super interested in, and I've thought about organizing similar things. So I'm glad somebody else took the initiative for once.
Awesome, Ken. Thank you. Thank you so much.
This is really awesome. Kyle, again, I think this is going to be your second whack kind of thing. Exciting. But I also want to say, I think, you and Liam make a great team, and I'm super excited about what's going to come out of here. I wish I knew you all 2 years ago, because damn, it was lonely trying to learn all this stuff, right? And I think this is going to be great. One of the things I'd like to suggest is one of the things that helped me out was these challenges. So a group of us got together and gave each other a challenge. So maybe it's like, every other week we do something together, or collab or whatever. Okay.
I'd love it. I'd love it. Yes.
Cool. Yeah.
Awesome.
Great.
Yeah.
All right, everybody. See you in 2 weeks.
Thank you.
See you in 2 weeks. Thanks for the
See you in 2
inspiration,
weeks.
everyone. Awesome. Awesome. See you in 2 weeks.
Really awesome. Thank you. Bye-bye.